back to the channel. This episode we're going to talk about Russian rat snakes. Now you might be thinking, yeah, it's another episode with juvenile subadult snakes, Dave. Now if you want to check out the yellow-tailed crebos, the false water cobra, Pueblo milk snakes, there's other videos, black-headed pythons, with some of my adult snakes breeding stock. But it's the winter, and at this time of the year most of my adult stuff is actually brumating. So I'm videoing, making some videos about the younger stuff that I'm growing on that I haven't bred yet. Russian rat snakes. My goodness me. The best pet snake? Yeah, I reckon they could be. They don't have the ultra stunning colours, but if you want a snake that's going to possibly get to around 6 feet long, but it's not a big 6 foot, they're not massively chunky, these are just superb pets. They're tactile and they just don't bite. They're like my European four-line snakes. Even in the wild you can catch a four-line snake. Very rarely will it bite. They've just got that lovely way about them where they just want to explore all the time. They will be out and about, so they're great for displays. They love to climb, so you can make a really good display vivarium with these guys in it. What do they like to keep? Apart from their just perfect pet-like nature, I've found they're quite finicky to get going. I brought these as unfed young hatchies from a breeder. He said some of his stuff he actually brumates for a while before they take their first feed. I kind of persevered through the summer and autumn, and they started feeding just fine, but picky. Now they're big hatchlings and they'll take hairless rat pups easily. Some of them prefer a pinky mouse though, but mine have been really picky and slow growing. 2-year-old, these are 3.5 and 4 feet long, these two, they're brother and sister. Look at them. I've got some subtropical snakes, false water cobras, crebos. They'll be huge compared to this. Black-headed pythons, 7 foot long at 2 years old maybe. Slow and picky. They don't tend to like big food items, big fat food items. Certainly not much thicker than the thickest part of their body. And until mine finally got onto sort of medium-sized mice, the front half of day-old cockerels, they've been slow growers. They've only just hit the growing stage. Now it's winter now, they're not brumating. They've not gone into any natural fasting at this time of year. They're eating like pigs right now. So once they're feeding well, obviously I'd advise you're going to get them from a breeder or a shop where they're already established feeders. This was a breeder I knew and he knew me. Mine love semi-arboreal. They started off in tubs, plenty of cover, as I tend to keep a lot of my hatchlings, because of course hatchling snakes are terrified of being eaten by anything. But at this size now, they're out all the time. Two big things: they don't like heat, and they do need a water bowl they can curl up in. As soon as the temperatures rise during the summer, you're probably going to find they spend a lot of time curled up in water. Schoolboy error. Because they don't like the heat and they'll just be in that water all the time. Obviously check for mites first, but a good sign it's too hot for them is they'll spend a lot of time in water. Now they do like water, but mine, they hit the water when it's too hot. 28 degrees centigrade hot spot, and let that fade away to even 20 degrees in the cool end. These are tough animals. They come from a harsh climate. We're not going to talk about breeding because, as I've said before, I'm not talking about stuff I haven't done personally. I can tell you how to breed these and I can tell you how I'm going to breed them, but only from other people's sort of input. Let's wait until they're fully grown and we've bred them here. Easy to keep. Give them water they can get in. Make sure a mediocre hot spot and a cool end. Don't feed them huge food items. To give you some idea, they're both eating adult mice, and this one's eating fully grown day-old cockerels. This one, the front half of a day-old cockerel. You can see the difference in growth just by chance. This one's retained its kind of drab juvenile patterning, almost, in so much as no yellow pigment at all. This one here is much more high yellow, and really this is the classic Russian rat snake colours that you want to see, I think, turning almost black and yellow, almost mangrovey looking, but of course totally harmless, non-venomous, non-bitey. Easily invasive in a cooler climate, I think. Maybe not invasive, because I don't know if they do any great harm, but certainly able to establish themselves even somewhere like the UK, I would think. This one went missing, don't tell anyone, this autumn for several weeks, and it had got several hundred yards away. It was found by a farmer friend who, no worries about catching it, wasn't sure what it was, treated it like it was an adder. Dave, have you lost any snakes? Shh, don't tell anyone. It hadn't fed, I don't think, but it had gone a long way in very cold temperatures. The only time any of these have ever bitten was, or tried to, was when he grabbed it and ceremoniously and hauled it into a bucket. Made it jump. It had been out in the wild, made it fearful, but they just won't bite. These are super pet, beginner snake without a doubt. They are that good and that reliable. I know someone else that lost one for several months in the UK. It came back twice the size when it was found. No problem finding young mice and small mice and rats, I'm sure. I'll show you some of their enclosures. Lighting, yeah, they respond to lighting. Do they need it? Probably not. Do these guys that come out actively and sunbathe in full view look better under lighting? 100%. And of course, that means if you want to, you can grow some hardy, let's do it again, some hardy plants in there. Showing off his climbing skills now. Some hardy plants in there and make the whole thing look spectacular. Juggling 2 Russian rat snakes at the same time. Underrated, I'm going to highly rate them. They aren't the most stunningly beautiful. They don't come in thousands of morphs. If you want an active display snake that's going to make you a brilliant pet, I've said it 3 times at least now, get yourself a Russian rat snake. They're so underrated, and yet the people that keep them will all tell you they are a fantastic species to work with. I'll show you their setups. They'll thrive in any kind of enclosure if you keep those basic parameters there. A damp hide box if you're going to use a bone dry substrate. I use a coir substrate, which I can keep damp at certain areas. Never had a problem with shedding whatsoever. Fascinating, beautiful. Russian rat snakes, if you like your colubrid snakes, definitely put them on the list. And what a shame this one's in blue. So this basking spot here is 25-26C, and it's interesting. This snake will spend a long time basking, like it's just about warm enough, if you like. Now it is, because it eats like a pig and it digests really well now, but interesting. Let's say it's 25-26C there. That snake will spend a lot of time up under the light fitting at the hottest point. Next door, slightly higher wattage lamps, and there it's 29C. This snake will bask, and as you'd expect, it'll get too hot and he'll retreat down, or down to the back, or down here where it's around 22. So he'll move around, he'll bask under the heat, but it'll definitely be too hot for him. Now there's lots of things in this experiment. You could say he's shyer and so on and so forth, but it's interesting to see this snake will move away from the heat source much quicker because it's a much hotter heat source. These snakes do not like excessive heat. In fact, they're very cold tolerant and will certainly feed and digest at very cool temperatures compared to many of the snakes we keep, certainly the tropical species. Probably the only colubris I've got that are slower growing than those Russian rat snakes are these beauties here. Incredibly slow growing, and Russian rat snakes have been quite slow growing for me compared to many of the species I keep. Look at that go. Even slower growing, but do you know what it is? If you're watching this video on New Year's Day, when it first airs, have a great new year. Let's try and have some fun and have a lot of happiness in our lives. Thanks for watching. Please subscribe. Massively appreciated. See you in the next one, guys.